Ever look at your grocery bill and think, if prices keep going up, I need a backup plan? Not a bunker fantasy, just a real, practical garden that can feed you in every season. Because the truth is, most gardens are summer snack gardens. A few tomatoes, some peppers, maybe cucumbers, and then winter hits and it's back to the store. Today, I'm going to show you the plants that turn a normal backyard garden into a 365-day survival garden, the kind that can keep producing food fresh, storable, and regrowable across the entire year. And I'll be honest, never buy food again is a catchy goal, but the real win is this: you can massively reduce what you buy, and you can build real food security from a small space. Right after this, hit like, subscribe, and comment your USDA zone and whether you have in-ground, raised beds, or containers, because the exact plant list shifts depending on whether you're in Zone 4, Zone 7, or Zone 10. Now let's build your 365-day garden the smart way. A true survival garden is built on 3 layers. Layer 1, daily nutrition, greens and vegetables you can harvest often. Layer 2, calories, the real food that keeps you full. Layer 3, storage and perennial systems, food you can cure, store, preserve, or harvest year after year. Most people only plant layer 1. The secret to year-round eating is adding layers 2 and 3. So let's start with the backbone of the whole plan: calorie crops. First, potatoes. If I had to pick one beginner-friendly survival crop for most of the US, it's potatoes. They produce a lot of calories in a small space, they store well, and they're incredibly versatile. And here's what makes potatoes' survival garden gold. You're not just growing food, you're growing a pantry. If you cure and store potatoes properly in a cool, dark place, they can last for months. That means your garden keeps feeding you long after the beds go empty. Second, sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are the hot climate powerhouse, and in many regions, they store even better than regular potatoes. They're calorie-dense, reliable once established, and the vines also produce edible leaves in many cooking traditions. If you live in warmer zones, sweet potatoes can be one of the most dependable staples you can grow. And if you're in cooler zones, you can still grow them with the right variety and enough warm days. Third, winter squash. Winter squash, like butternut, acorn, kabocha, and pumpkins, are one of the best survival crops for one reason: storage. A single plant can produce multiple heavy fruits, and many varieties store for months at room temperature when cured. When your garden is sleeping, a shelf of winter squash keeps you eating real food. Fourth, dry beans. Fresh green beans are great, but survival gardens are about dry beans: pinto, black, navy, kidney, cowpeas, and more. Because dry beans give you something most backyard gardens don't: shelf-stable protein. And dry beans are a double win. They store well, and they help build soil by working with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. In other words, they can feed you and support your next crop. Fifth, corn, specifically dent corn or flour corn. Sweet corn is delicious, but it's not a survival staple unless you preserve it. Dent corn and flour corn are what you grow for long-term calories. Ground into cornmeal, it becomes tortillas, cornbread, porridge, real survival food. Is corn easy? Not always. It takes space, good soil, and timing. But if you have the room, corn can be a cornerstone calorie crop. Now, calories keep you full, but survival gardens also need nutrients and everyday vegetables so your meals aren't just starch and beans. So next, let's talk about the crops that keep you eating fresh through multiple seasons. Sixth, kale, collards, and Swiss chard. This is the year-round greens trio. In many climates, kale and collards can survive cold, and in milder zones they can produce for a very long time. Swiss chard can handle heat better than many greens and keeps going when lettuce quits. If you want the feeling of "I can harvest something almost any time," plant these. They're reliable, forgiving, and incredibly productive. Seventh, cabbage plus the cabbage family. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, these are cool season workhorses. But cabbage gets a special spotlight for survival gardens because you can turn it into long-term food through fermentation. Even without fancy equipment, Cabbage can become sauerkraut or fermented slaw, foods that last, improve nutrition, and add variety when the garden feels repetitive. Eighth, alliums, garlic, onions, and leeks. If survival gardening has a secret weapon, it's palliums. Garlic stores well, onions store well, leeks can sit in the garden and be harvested as needed. They add flavor to everything, and flavor is not optional when you're trying to live off what you grow. A pantry full of potatoes is nice. A pantry full of potatoes with garlic and onions is how you actually enjoy eating at home. Ninth, carrots, beets, turnips, and rutabagas. Root crops are survival superstars because many can be stored, and in some climates they can be left in the ground with protection and harvested through winter. Carrots and beets also give you something important: real micronutrients, sweetness, and variety, without needing a full orchard. Now we need to talk about perennials, because annual planting is great, but perennials are how you build a garden that gets easier every year. 10th, asparagus. Asparagus is one of the classic food security plants. You plant once, wait for it to establish, and then harvest for years. It's not instant gratification, but it's a long-term survival investment. 11th, Jerusalem artichokes, also called sunchokes. These are underground tubers that can be incredibly productive and incredibly tough. They come back year after year. In many areas, you can leave them in the ground and dig as needed. They're not for everyone. Some people have digestion issues with them, but from a survival perspective, they're one of the most reliable buried pantry crops you can grow. 12th, perennial onions, like walking onions. These are the kind of plants you put in once and then harvest again and again. They multiply, they come back, and they give you onion flavor without replanting every season. Now let's add fruit, because survival isn't just about calories, it's also about long-term nutrients and morale. Fruit is what keeps you feeling human. 13th, berries, especially blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. Berries can produce heavy yields in small spaces, and they're easy to preserve by freezing, dehydrating, or turning into jams where allowed and safe. Blackberries can be incredibly productive. Blueberries require the right soil conditions, but once established, they can be amazing. Strawberries give fast returns and can be grown in beds or containers. 14th, fruit trees that match your climate. This is where your zone matters a lot. In colder climates, apples and pears can be long-term staples. In warmer climates, figs, citrus, peaches, and plums can be high-producing. The key survival principle with fruit trees is this: plant varieties that thrive where you live, not varieties you wish you could grow. A struggling tree is not food security. A thriving tree is. Now, a survival garden also needs what I call the missing 10%, the plants that make simple staples taste good and keep you cooking at home. 15th, herbs. Basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, sage, parsley, cilantro, whatever works in your climate. Herbs are high value, easy to dry, and they turn basic food into real meals. When you're eating beans, potatoes, squash, and greens, herbs keep your kitchen from feeling boring. And finally, the plant category that makes a 365-day garden possible even in apartments, snow, or limited space. 16th, sprouts and microgreens. This is your winter insurance policy. Sprouts and microgreens grow indoors fast, in days. They don't care if it's snowing outside. They give you fresh greens when your outdoor garden is slow, and they keep nutrition coming in when you're living off stored foods. If you want a true never-stop harvesting system, you combine outdoor seasonal crops with indoor microgreens in the off-season. Now let's pull this together into a simple seasonal rhythm. Because the reason people fail at year-round gardening isn't lack of plants, it's lack of timing. A survival garden thinks in 4 seasons: spring, cool season greens, brassicas, potatoes, onions, early roots; summer, beans, corn, sweet potatoes, squash, herbs, berries. Fall, more greens and roots, storage harvests, garlic planting in many areas. Winter, stored potatoes, squash, cured onions and garlic, fermented cabbage, plus indoor greens like microgreens. When your garden is built like that, you stop relying on one perfect summer harvest. You start living in a loop. Grow, store, replant, repeat. Now, a quick reality check that will save you frustration. If your goal is never buy food again, you need to plan for what gardens don't easily provide. Gardens are great at carbs, vegetables, herbs, and fruit. They're less automatic for fats and high protein unless you grow things like dry beans, peanuts in warm areas, or sunflowers for seeds, and unless you preserve properly. So if you want to take this survival garden idea seriously, your smartest move is to build a core menu you actually eat, and then grow the ingredients that support it. For example, potatoes or sweet potatoes as a base, dry beans for protein, squash for storage calories and variety, alliums and herbs for flavor, greens and roots for nutrition, fruit when possible for long-term resilience, microgreens as your winter bridge. That combination is how you get close to the dream, reducing grocery dependency in a realistic way. Here's a simple challenge you can take from this video. Pick just 10 categories to start. 2 calorie crops, 2 protein or storage crops, 2 year-round greens, 2 roots or alliums, 1 fruit category, 1 indoor wintergreen. You don't need 100 plants. You need a system that doesn't collapse when the season changes. And now your final CTA. If this video helped, hit like, subscribe, and comment your USDA zone and your biggest goal: lower grocery bill, year-round harvest, or emergency food backup. I'll reply with a short plant list that matches your climate. Next video, I'm going to map out a simple one-bed survival garden plan. Exactly what to plant first, what to plant next, and how to keep that single bed producing across the year without getting overwhelmed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.